The Joe Rogan Experience.
You used to say that you liked your Porsche to go to the Comedy Store because it like juiced you up.
Yeah.
You still feel like that?
Yeah, I like something loud, something that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Something,
You got to get in the zone.
Yeah, but it just gives you like a little bit of just like a kickstart.
Yeah.
You don't even have to drive fast. It's not about that. It's about what it can do. It's like you're taking it out for this, like, it just moves better. It moves around corners better. It grips the road better. It feels more mechanical.
Yeah. My 911 is kind of like that, but it's actually got the elements of like a Baja truck also. So you could just fucking smash speed bumps.
Oh, really?
And like, you know those weird transitions into driveways here that everybody hates in sports cars? You got to take them on an angle and all that.
Yeah.
Boom. Straight in, on the power, just kind of bounce it a little bit. You could drive off of curbs and shit. It is so fun. And it's all those things you love about your car, but also the things you want in like a trophy truck.
Jesus
Christ. It rules.
Wow.
So great.
You should be a salesman.
I am. No, I don't get kickbacks, but you should. Everybody should buy an off-road Porsche. It's fucking
That's
great.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Of all the recommendations, there's a lot of people out there
Good consumer
suggest
advice.
you stay in school and get your shit together. Jordan Peterson says to clean your room.
Dude, you don't want to
Matt
come for
Farah,
me for good consumer
get a
advice.
Safari Porsche.
I'll tell you to buy some stupid shit. I only have stupid cars.
I love the fact that you dumped so much money into that Mustang, because like that's the no disrespect to
That's
anybody.
okay. It's true.
What I feel is the second ugliest version. It was kind of unique at the time.
Yeah,
it wasn't ugly in the
You
at
and
the
Rutledge
time.
spent mad time talking shit about my Mustang.
It was. It's just an odd choice because you're a connoisseur
Yeah.
of automobiles, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't he get like a '68 Mustang?
I don't have a connection to those cars. You know,
Really?
yeah, I was born in '81, so
don't
to me the Mustangs of my youth
that
were
what it- oh, look
that
at
was
that.
my car.
That
Larry
does look
Chen
pretty
shot
dope.
that photo.
That does look pretty dope.
The car was beautiful, man. That was a beautiful car, and I did dump a lot of money into it. But I got on the cover of CarCraft magazine. I had a feature in Speed Hunters, and I got all my money back out of it, even after I gave half the money to charity. So
Now-
I got out of it pretty good.
It's fantastic, and you deserved every penny,
It drove.
penny of it.
It drove really nice too.
Look at the suspension, like the way it sits, rather the ride,
Yeah.
the fat wide tires. And
Got the right stance.
Those are awesome wheels too. What are those wheels?
The wheels are HRE RS 105s, which is a really popular wheel for the Ford GT. They use those. So that's probably the cheapest car they've ever been on. The
Can I
wheels
get
are
a
like
side?
12K.
Is there a side picture of that?
The wheels retail for like 12K. They're really expensive.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if
Damn.
Joe Rogan wanted a deal, we could probably get something worked out with HRE, but
That's so
that car
pretty.
was so cool. But, you know, after it was done, like that picture you just saw is it done, basically. And once it was done, I was like, oh, fuck, man. You know, this thing handles so good and it looks so cool. It could really use like 300 more horsepower. It was like 300 horsepower, 350 horsepower, and it really needed to be like 600. And so I was at the point where I either was going to spend 2 more years and $20 more thousand, and maybe I'd be happy with what I got at the end, or it was just time to move on. And at about the same time, I drove. Lee Keane is the name of the dude who built my Porsche, and he builds and sells those. Mine is number 14 of the cars he builds. I drove his for a video, and I just was so in love with it, and I just said, oh, this is exactly the thing that I need in my life right now. And so when I sold the Mustang, I gave the money to Lee Keane and got a lifted 911.
I
good
love the
consumer
fact that
advice.
you took that as your daily driver.
Yeah, well,
That's what I love.
In combination with the scooter and,
Yeah.
and the test cars I have.
But
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Your number one squeeze is
Yeah,
this
buddy.
Safari 911 from 1987.
I didn't spend all that money to look at it. You know?
Area? Yeah, right?
It's if I spent all that money, it has no collector value, right? It's just the value is what I get out of driving it.
Isn't it shocking when you open one of those old Porsches, the heft to it, the surprising
The
heft?
solidness of it. Yes. I mean those
doors.
galvanized Porsche bodies from the 60s to the mid 90s are some of the finest built vehicles in terms of quality and engineering. They're expensive to maintain. They can be annoying, but as far as pure quality of engineering, there's nothing better. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably the finest car in the world from a quality perspective through most of its life. Yeah.
The 964 is a really unusual one for me because that year was like they still kept the frog eyes, but the suspension became more lively, a little bit more controllable, but yet it still maintained a lot of the old feel.
Yeah. At the time, those cars, if you go back to 92 when those cars came out, or 91, and you read sort of like contemporary reviews of the car, they were calling it old, slow, and heavy. You know, they said it was a solid feeling car, but the Corvette ZR1 was way faster and lighter, you know what I mean? And the Ferrari, let's see, the 348 was a piece of shit, but what the fuck else? 92. Some of the Japanese stuff, the Supra, the 300ZX twin turbo. You know, these were modern cars with turbochargers and, you know, all this new cool shit. And here was this sort of, well, this 911's really still sort of the same since the 60s, you know? And so that kind of dragged on. But to revisit those cars now, the fact that they were unchanged from the 60s to the mid 90s is a positive. It's an endearing quality.
Right.
It's such a they developed that body and chassis so thoroughly over those 30 years that it's such a finely engineered thing that you can take it and build something like a Singer out of it. A Singer 911, it is as, like, I remember their regular car, right, is as fast around Laguna Seca as a Ferrari 458 with no traction control and manually shifting.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they've done wonders with those chassis, and they've really lightened them with carbon bodies, and so it is possible to take that chassis further. It just would have cost Porsche. Porsche lost so much money in the 90s, dude. Porsche was really hanging on by a thread, and they were losing money like crazy until Volkswagen Audi Group came in, and that's where you ended up with the water-cooled cars, the Boxster, and then the Cayenne.
Wow.
But in the 90s, when they were doing the 993s from like they were losing a crazy amount of money on those cars.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
It's a weird car, right? It's like they stuck with that crazy design for so long.
Yeah, it feels old. It feels like 25 years older than it really is. And yet it is so finely made.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Right. So a strange combination, right?
As opposed to something like
that's a crazy one.
That's a 993 GT a Carrera RS. That's delightful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice.
That's a beautiful car.
So, you know, if you look at the passenger compartment, the roof line, the windshield, the side windows of those cars, you know, that's basically unchanged from the 70s to late 90s.
It's such a pretty shape. It's just like some shape that people just gravitate towards,
and it's
particularly the really old ones.
Yeah.
Something about an old one when you see them in person, like if you see a really nicely done like 71 long nose, there's something about them you're like,
they're so light.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of airy about them. I think, you know, of all the classic cars, they are the most usable, you know, to just run around the city and drive. You know, you can drive a car from the 70s. You know, Magnus fucking drives that car. Oh, you know, he drives cars from the 70s, like, no problem. You could do that.
Dude, Magnus had this car that he sold to some rock and roll star in England. He had this silver with blue stripes, and it was like a 69 or something like that.
I think I remember that car, yeah.
Oh, my God, that car was a magic thing.
He's got cool taste.
Pretty. There's a video of him, like, driving it, going around this corner. You know, he had that video that they made about him. Yeah. It's like a little short documentary.
Urban Outlaw documentary.
That's it. And he comes around in this old school silver Porsche, and you look at it like, that's a whole different thing he's doing than everybody else. And he's not even driving fast. Like, you don't even have to drive fast in that thing. It weighs, what does it weigh?
I mean, 2,500 pounds, maybe.
It's so light.
Maybe.
And it doesn't have a lot of power either.
Well, one of the things I love about my car is with the lift on it and the tires, you've got like less grip than a normal 911. So if nobody's around, like, I can slide entrance ramps. Like, I can be a silly bastard in that car, and it's just extra fun.
Look at this.
That is the silver car with the blue. Yeah, that's an excellent car.
Cool.
Yeah.
But even when you hear the engine, it doesn't sound like anything else.
Yeah.
It's a weird little mechanical creature.
Yeah, because of a small displacement, that's probably a 2 or a 2.0 or a 2.2. You know, it's not like this big bore 3.8 like you've got, or you know, I've got a 3.2, which is a bit more of a bassy kind of tone. Yeah,
And
the older engines have a
really
higher pitch.
Small. It's like really. Those ones are so
The 60s
small.
ones are little. Yeah.
God damn,
but
it's
they're
so
still pretty
weird.
big inside. Like it's the same size inside as your car. Like you could get in it and drive it, and it's like even those 356s, the really old Porsches from the 50s, like those are actually kind of roomy. Like when you put that
Really?
engine in the back, yeah, your feet can go pretty
that
far
makes sense.
forward. Yeah.
And the Germans are pretty big people too.
Yeah, one of the things with Porsche specifically is about tall people fitting.
Yeah, they got barbarian DNA, man, right?
And the CEO of Porsche for a very long time was 6'4", and so he demanded. That's why Panamera looks like it does, so that a 6'4" person can fit in the back. That's exactly that reason.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What'd they do with the backseat of the 911? So those are ridiculous.
Well, those are for kids or whatever.
Like little kids too, man.
I think that's an insurance thing. I think by being a 4-seater, you might be able to.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I just don't have rear seats though. I don't.
I mean, you could have a friend get in the back of your 911 for a couple of blocks.
Yeah. It's
Hop in.
possible,
Hop
but it's
in.
more like you throw your duffel bag back there or whatever.
It's just too tight. It's too tight.
But the ones you buy don't have rear seats, so what do you care? You
Yeah,
buy the RSs; they don't have the rear seats.
Wow. If I drive like one of those cars, especially the older ones, like like the 964 or something like that, I'd like the most stripped down ones. That's what I like the most.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't want a radio. I
like a radio.
I don't want air conditioning. Nothing.
I use my
That's
car
not a
every day,
regular-
and so I have a
I know,
radio
no, I
and
get
air
it.
conditioning. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But a car like that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like a little ride.
Yeah.
It's like you're taking a ride more than it is like you're driving.
Totally. No, driving is the thing.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
driving. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my Lamborghini. I treat like that. When I don't take that to do bullshit. When I go out and drive that car, that is my activity.
Yeah, so like a guy like Magnus, he's experiencing, what a normal person experiences when they're enjoying the pleasure of driving, but he's getting it way more analog, way more super light car.
Yeah.
It's all ancient fucking technology.
Those light cars are real easy to drive, though. When you've got a little engine, you can have a light clutch, you can have a light shifter. You don't need, the more power you've got, the heavier duty everything needs to be.
Yeah.
And so when you dial that stuff back and the car's 2,000 pounds and the engine's only 200 horsepower, you can just fingertip the whole thing. It's very easy.
Yeah, my friend Todd said this to me. It was a very wise thing. He said it doesn't matter how fast you're going, just matter how fast it feels.
Totally.
He was talking about like old 911s.
1,000%. 1,000%.
It's wise, like it's a wise perspective because you go, oh yeah, if you're just enjoying the car, like you're supposed to get maximum enjoyment. Like it doesn't have to be attached to a number.
Correct.
Like if you didn't know how fast you were going, you weren't looking at your car other than for the purposes of safety.
Yeah.
You weren't it wasn't a dick contest. There'd be a certain level you wouldn't want to drive at.
I agree. Even knowing the speeds, for me personally, like my cars have fairly low power. Like they're not crazy huge power cars. And I think beyond a certain point, I just can't use it anymore. And so I think there's an argument for having something like a Tesla for every day, and then having an engaging machine for the weekends.